So let's look at the concept of enumeration or enums, right? In that, so an enumeration is used for defining named constant values. An enumerated type is declared using the enum keyword, right? This keyword. Okay, so this is the syntax: enum name, and then enumeration list. So where are they used? They are used where the enum name specifies the enumeration type name, and they are used where the enum name, which is this name, the name of the enum, specifies the enumeration type name, and where the enumeration list is a comma separated list of identifiers, right? So each of the symbols in the enumeration list stands for an integer value, one greater than the symbol that precedes it. By default, the value of the first enumeration symbol is 0. Alright, so this is a whole new concept in that, right? So let's look at it here. So it's a very good real world use case for using enums. I have these notes, which I generated. So it says a very good real world use case for using enums instead of strings in that is user status or application state handling, something you hit often in Flutter apps, APIs, and state management. Alright, so you're going to learn about this soon, later on in your journey of that programming. Alright, so we have this first example, right? We have this first example using strings in conditional statements. So let's say we have an app, we built an application, all right, and in that application we have like 3 different user status. So when someone downloads the application and signs up, right, once someone signs up on the application as a new user, the person is deemed active. Take Facebook for example. Okay, so let me just copy this piece of code and paste it here. Okay, I will have to wrap this in the main function. Alright, so when someone signs up as a new user, the person is deemed active. Alright, the account is active. When the person violates the app's policies, right? The app's policies, maybe you upload some illegal content or something like that, right? Maybe take Facebook for example. Again, if someone violates Facebook policy, the account will be suspended. Okay, so this user is suspended. Else if user status is deleted, in other words, maybe the person has deleted his or her account, alright, so we can now print user no longer exists. Okay, so we are going to look at this, and of course they said that this is bad practice. They said that this is bad practice, alright, and these are the problems. So these are the problems with this approach, right? You can have typos. in the strings. All right, you can it can be hard to refactor. All right, and the strings are not self-documenting. Well, one of the most common time errors in programming, of using strings like this in programming is the typos. All right, you can have typos like um, can have typos like let's say you want to say maybe user status dot, and maybe instead of active you spell active wrongly, like ACTACITVE, right? This is a wrong spelling for active. And normally before now, if I had run this code, you will see that I will have this printed, user can log in because the user is active at this time, at this moment, right? But I can maybe during my conditional checks, I can make the mistake of misspelling one of the strings. All right, and when I do, you can see that I will have nothing printed, right? And then I can start looking for, I can start searching through my code base, looking for the bug, looking for, what is making this value not to print, because I expect it to print, right? So this can be avoided using enums instead, right? Using enumerations. And this is what an enum looks like. All right. Right now, in this code, we have 3 states, right? 3 user states, which are active, suspended, and deleted. Okay, I can just create an enum and say user states, or rather user status. All right, and I can say active, suspended, and deleted. Okay, so this is what an enum is. This is just what it looks like, right? It is like they said here, it is a type that is used for defining named constant values. All right, and the constant values in this case are just these 3 user states that exist in this app. All right, so instead of passing strings manually, I can just say user status dot active, user status dot suspended, and then user status dot deleted. All right, but before I do this, I'll have to set this variable to one of these enums. Okay, so let's say this particular user, the status of this particular user is let me call this person Emeka, or let me just use Jane. Alright, so the name of this user is Jane and Jane is active. Alright, so to define Jane's status as active, I'll just say user status dot active. Okay, so I'll have to define this as the same type of the enum, the same type as the enum, because this is not a string, right? This value is not a string, it is an enum, this enum. Alright, so I will have to use this same enum type for this value. Now if I run it, I will have my value, user can log in. Alright, so that is exactly what was done here. Alright, so using enums is the best practice, right? It is the best practice. So why enums are better? Number one, compile time safety. That won't compile if you reference an invalid enum value. Alright, so it's not even, you're going to have a compile time error if you even make a mistake here. You cannot, right? You're going to see that you're going to have an error here, a compile time error, and you will be able to check what the problem is. It says there's no constant named ACITVE in user status. Alright, so that's one advantage. And then of course auto completion, right, and readability. So there's auto completion, right? If I do user status.d, you can see deleted shows up. So there's auto completion in my IDE VS Code. All right, and of course safer switch statements. Okay, so I could convert this to a switch case. All right, especially if we have more user status. Okay, so I could do that, and if I do that, my switch case statements will be safer and better. All right, so that's that. Very common real world scenarios where enums shine. Okay, they shine in API request states. We will see API requests soon, I believe in the next lecture, probably the next part of this course. We will see API requests and user roles, just as user roles, order status, team mode, and payment status. All right, so these are used when building apps for real world problems. All right, in real world scenarios. So this is for user authentication. Right, so if a user logs into the app, into a mobile app, for example, the user is logged in. If the user logs out, the user is logged out. Right, if the user is trying to log in or trying to log out, the state is going to be a loading state. Okay, so I believe this is where we have to stop. So when not to use enums? When should you not use enums? When values are dynamic, example, coming directly from a server, and when the set of values is unknown or frequently changing. Right, so if there's going to be some scenarios where the values are going to be changing, mostly because they are going to be coming from a server. All right, so you should not use enums in this case. All right, enums are used for constants. All right, so this is where we are going to end this lesson. All right, I'm going to see you in the next part. Thank you.